bruised, really ripe, slightly wrinkly, ugly apples, pears. You could do plums, you can do peaches. Heck, I'm even throwing in a couple of ripe persimmons. All of these things can become yummy applesauce or apple something sauce. And the real beauty is you don't have to do anything fancy. You just need to wash them and take off the stems and get out the seeds and stuff. But for apples especially, if you don't have one of these, you totally need one. In fact, I have them in multiple sizes. I have one that has like smaller wedges, but for this, all you need is just big chunks because they're going to cook down anyway. For both apples and non-apples, it's a great way to use fruit that is past the point that you want to eat it. I mean, texturally. Like, I've got these pears and they're really soft. I mean, they smell beautiful and they smell perfect, like perfectly paired. But when I press on them, they smush. And so they're really softer than I would want to eat. I mean, they'd be perfect for smoothies too, but they're also great for this. And they add some flavor to your applesauce. Again, like any sort of stone fruit, plums, peaches, apricots. I just happen to have persimmons, and so I'm using a couple of persimmons too because I have a lot of them. Precision, this is not. You don't have to worry about peeling them because it's all going to get blended up anyway. And frankly, that's just extra fiber. Banged up, bruised up, rough cut. They do not have to be cut evenly because they're all going to cook thoroughly. So it doesn't matter if they're the same size. Just, I mean, look at this. It's just a hodgepodge of overripe fruit and banged up fruit. And just throw it in. Easy peasy. Now you have the seasoning and the sweetening. And here you have endless options. Dependent on a lot of things. How much seasoning you like, how much spice you want, how spiced you want your applesauce to be. It can be really spiced, not very spiced, something in between. Same thing for sweetener. You can use, it also depends on what fruit you have, how sweet the fruit you have is. I have a fair amount of pears, which are very ripe, so they're very sweet. But I do also have quite a few Granny Smith apples in there, so those are tartar. And also it just has to do with how, tartar is not a word. Well, tartar is. Anyway, more tart. Anyway, it just depends on how sweet you want it to be. I mean, you can not sweeten it at all, and I've done that before. You can sweeten a lot. You can sweeten a little bit. You can use agave. You can use honey. You can use brown sugar. You can use regular sugar. You can use coconut sugar. I just do a little bit. I mean, for the honey, I'm probably going to use honey, and so I'm going to do just, here's how much honey I'm going to use. That's it. Just, there's no measuring. Also, you can see that this crock pot is full. I mean, and I frankly have filled it more than this before. It's just, this is what I have right now that I'm trying to cook up. But you can max this puppy out, and it doesn't matter because it's going to cook down. It will, I mean, this will shrink by half. So don't worry. As long as you can close the lid, you're good. For seasoning, I like mine to be really spiced, more like apple butter. So I use 2 kinds of cinnamon, little cloves, a lot of ginger. I love ginger. A little allspice, and sometimes mace and nutmeg, whatever. Always a pinch of salt. Just, I mean, everything needs a pinch of salt, even smoothies. Even sweet things just need a pinch of salt. And you're going to want the juice of a lemon or half a lemon. If you use less, you may only want half of a lemon. It doesn't really matter. I mean, the lemon is just a nice tart balance to the sweetness of the apples. So you can skip that. I don't recommend it. So there's that. So So also remember that it's going to cook down. So it's okay to season a little bit more heavily. For one, there's a lot. I mean, this is a 6-quart, so there's a lot of fruit in there. But you see, I do not use a light hand. I've got 2 kinds of cinnamon in there, ginger, a little bit of fresh nutmeg, which is just the best thing ever. Little bit of allspice, little bit of cloves. Those are both very pungent. You want to use a very light hand with those in particular, unless you just want it to taste like an orange clove pomander, because they're, like I said, they're very strong. Cardamom, I threw in a little bit of cardamom. Cardamom is another thing that you'd want to use a light hand with. And this, which I'm not doing for this variety, but I have done it in the past, this Balti curry, oh my gosh, I just so recommend this. It's just the best thing ever. And it goes exceptionally well with fruit. It doesn't say it on the bottle, but it does, because it is a sweeter curry. It is not a hot curry. This plus honey makes a very exotic, unique applesauce, or apple plus anything sauce, or just frankly sprinkled on pears. Very good. I recommend. Last but not least is your liquid. And depending on how juicy your fruit is, and also how thick or how thin you want your applesauce to be, you need anywhere from like a tablespoon of liquid to maybe half a cup.